Good evening, everybody. I'd like to introduce you all to the Community Conversation Part 2 for the Auburn Fire Headquarters here in Auburn, Mass. My name is Matt Salad. I'm a project manager with Tech 10 Architects. With me tonight is Tyler Arshevsky, project designer from our office. Jeff McElravy, if he couldn't be here tonight, he's the director of public safety design at Tech 10 Architects. And along with us, we also have your OPM left field with Joe Sullivan. We have Alyssa, Connor, and Kevin as well from their firm representing left field. And this presentation is really a follow-up to a community charrette that we had conducted at the high school back in January, where we presented some ideas about what this new fire station in Auburn could be. We received a lot of good feedback based on that presentation, and we've since then incorporated a lot of that feedback into the design. So this is really a presentation about the updates to the design based on that community feedback, but also for those that weren't at that presentation and want a little bit more information on the need and the process that we've gone through thus far, as well as what to look for in the future. We wanted to sort of rehash some of the main points that we had made in that initial presentation, just to refresh everybody's memory. So first I'm going to go through just some key deficiencies with the existing fire station. And when we're talking about that fire station, we're talking about the one over here at West Street, which is fire station number 2. There is no work at fire headquarters anticipated with this project. The site itself is certainly challenged. It's a building that is shared with the school administration at this time. It's also co-located with the middle school itself. The main points of egress off the site for fire response is directly onto West Street with only one point of exit. It's sort of a best practice for a fire station to have 2 points of egress off of the site so that they can better respond if there's any congestion or traffic in their way. And it also has some topography issues. So these challenges make it very difficult for us to do any renovation work because of the shared uses on site. As well as how compact and tight the property is. Within the building itself, it's really just undersized. It doesn't serve the need for the department for a modern fire station. This was initially constructed many years ago as a school. It was renovated as a temporary solution to house this substation over 40 years ago. So right now the fire trucks are parked. These are multiple, tens of tons of pounds of equipment that are housed on a floor that was designed for middle school children. So it really isn't made to support the vehicles and the equipment that the fire department needs in order to respond. It also has many substandard mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems. There's no separation of contaminated space from clean space. We know over the past several decades, the research in carcinogen exposure to firefighters returning from the scene to the fire floor, they bring a lot of nasty things back with them from a fire. These need to get decontaminated and cleaned, but there's always an inherent risk. And so we want to make sure that we're properly segregating those hazardous, those contaminated spaces from all the clean living quarters and office spaces that the firefighters live and work in and day out. And that's just not feasible in this current configuration in this building. We also don't have good gender equity within the building, so there's not adequate facilities or space for those facilities for female firefighters. And there's just a real lack of living and workspaces for these folks. So because of that, we engaged in a multi-year study to really analyze both fire stations as well as the police station. The result of those studies was ultimately to deem a new station was indeed needed, and that a new site would be a best solution for that. We've studied renovations and additions to both the fire headquarters, the existing station, the police station on multiple properties, several dozen parcels throughout the community, and ultimately landed on a parcel that we'll speak more to later in the presentation. So the project schedule, we've been working on this study since 2017. I know the town has been working on this even longer than that, so it's been well overdue. It culminated in 2023 with the purchase of a piece of property off Prospect Street. It was formerly the Chuck Steakhouse. That was appropriated at town meeting, and purchased. The existing building has then since been demolished. We have then, since last fall, embarked on a pre-design process where we studied in great detail that site, went through a number of different design iterations, looked at ways that we can plan for future, and that'll ultimately culminate at town meeting on May 6th, and then ultimately with a debt exclusion vote to fund the construction of this facility this coming May 20th. Should we see a positive response by the community in approval to move forward with this project, we'd be looking at an approximate 10-month design phase. That includes 3 different phases: schematic design, where we really get into the details of spatial adjacencies, the fit and finish of the building. Then we get into design development, where we start developing some of the more technical details. And then ultimately the construction documents phase, where we're putting together a detailed package of documents that a contractor will then bid on, and then provide a price. At each stage of this process, we will have a third-party estimator review all of our documents to make sure that we're in line with the project budget that was approved at town meeting. And if there are any deviations from that, we'll make sure that we have well enough time in advance to adjust the design to make sure that we're not going over budget. We really want to make sure that the project is stayed on schedule and ultimately under budget throughout this entire process. Sometime early 2026, early spring, late winter, we would be putting the project out to bid, seeking bids from general contractors. That takes 6 to 8 weeks. And then from then, we would anticipate an 18-month construction schedule, allowing the fire department to then move into the new facility in 2027. So, as I mentioned in January, we held a community conversation at the high school. We had went through a series of informational slides presenting the project, and then scattered a number of boards around the room, as well as an online survey that was run simultaneously with that exercise. And I want to run through just a brief overview of some of the results and some of the comments that we had heard from the community that ultimately drove updates to the design that we'll present tonight. So we asked 3 questions. We wanted to know about the community's thoughts on the aesthetic. What does a fire station mean to the town of Auburn? What should it look like? What should it feel like? We also wanted to look at the site design as we had presented it that night. You know, what do you like? What don't you like? What else should we consider? And then ultimately, we presented an initial conceptual design and wanted to take the temperature of the community on what they felt about that as well. Do you like the aesthetic? Do you like the look? Do you feel like we should go in a different direction or sort of stay the course? And this was an example of some of the boards that we had scattered around the room, as well as the SurveyMonkey that we had linked online as well, where we had looked for what does a fire station look like in Auburn. We actually showed that through a couple of examples of other fire stations throughout the Commonwealth in Northern Connecticut, seeking feedback on which of these sort of appeal to the community. Overwhelmingly, Lexington, Massachusetts, their fire headquarters, depicted on the top, was the favorite choice. It felt that was an appropriate, modern, but New England aesthetic that felt like it would fit well within the community. Trailing behind those was the Greenfield, Massachusetts fire headquarters, and then the Bloomfield Center Fire District, station number 3, depicted on the right. So all 3 of those really in the traditional New England aesthetic with some modern design detailing, but that was overwhelmingly supported as the direction that we went. In terms of the overall site design, and this is an example of the site plan that we presented at that presentation, there were certainly concerns with traffic, with Route 20 and Southbridge Street, the way that the public would be able to get in and out of the site, the way that the fire department would respond off of the site. We've talked through that at a couple of subsequent building committee meetings, through the chief, the deputy chief, and through their operations. And we've come to a pretty good understanding of the way that this is going to be developed such that it really limits the impact. It's not something that the fire department believes is going to be a challenge. We will have good signage, we'll have good lighting, good wayfinding, so that it won't be too much of an issue. Those were the main concerns For the most part, it was a pretty positive response on the site design. And then lastly, we asked about the current building design, and these were 4 views of the building that we had shown and said, what do you like, what don't you like? We want your honest feedback and we want your opinions. There was a discrepancy between a lot of the comments we had. Some people really liked it, some people didn't like it, some people thought it was too modern, some folks thought it wasn't modern enough. But for the most part, a couple of key points really repeated themselves through a number of the comments. It felt a little dark. The flat roof at the front of the building wasn't very appealing or didn't seem to fit really well with the community. It seemed a little too futuristic and too modern looking, and that we really should take a look at the comments on the first slide about going back to a more traditional New England style of architecture. And so we worked with the building committee and provided some alternative designs that address this. 1, as an update to the initial design, and then 2, as an alternate design that addressed as many of these concerns as practical. So I'll just go through really quick on some updated floor and site plans, starting with the site plan. There really wasn't a lot of change with this. We spoke with the department and the committee and felt pretty comfortable that site access, wayfinding would all be really reasonably accommodated through this. A lot of the traffic issues on the 2 main roads would be handled through traffic signalization that already exists there, so that wasn't much of a concern. But the one main thing that we did do, and you'll see this repeated through the floor plans, is in an effort to really make the building as efficient as possible, we did look at a couple of program spaces and reduce their overall square footage. So the far left portion of the proposed building, we actually brought that in several feet. We reduced the capacity of the training room, we reduced the size of the fitness room, and ultimately shrank the overall gross square footage of the building. Every square foot that we take out of the building results in dollars saved over the construction of it. So we really just made some value add type decisions. So as a reminder on the site plan, just to go back through this briefly, we got Route 20 down to the south of the plan. This is Prospect Street. Over on the top left, this is the Dunkin' Donuts that's currently being renovated, and the Veterans Memorial to the north. Main public parking would be planned south right here, with our public entry facing Route 20. Off to the bottom right of the site, we would have a small area here, a small plaza that would have some signage. This would be masonry, something that would also provide some vehicle, some protection if a vehicle started to veer off of the roadway or something like that. So providing a little bit of safety through that. We've got a firefighters memorial out to the front of the building here, and then are creating a little bit of a parking lot connection to the Veterans Memorial here as well, which is a little bit underserved. And this project is able to provide a little bit of on-site parking, so that could be better utilized. And then an area here is dashed out as a large piece of green space for future expansion. So we want to develop this project, this site, this building to allow for future growth so that we're not sort of stuck with what we're building today and don't have room to expand in the future. So this site does anticipate the ability for another municipal purpose on the campus in the future. That could be another municipal use. It could be expansion of the fire department. That's to be determined in the future. Currently, we're programming 71 public parking spaces down here. That's so that we could have maximum usability by the public for the community training room. So that's what's driving the total parking count there. And then we've got a 54 staff parking spaces in the rear of the building as well. And then again, 5 parking spaces to serve the Veterans Memorial. We're also noting an area of the building as additional future growth. So predominantly, this block of the building is a 2-story space. The portion of the building planned north is where the apparatus bays are. So those are tall bay, tall height spaces to the back. But this area here above the training room and the fitness room, those are 1-story spaces. We're not building a 2nd story above that. But we are going to put a composite deck, roof deck there. So what that means is instead of just putting a metal deck and then insulation and roofing, we're actually going to pour concrete over that roof deck such that in 10, 15, 20 years, if the fire department needs more space as the fire service evolves over time, at a relatively low cost, you'd be able to create an addition and grow vertically in that location with minimal cost. Going to the floor plans, plan left is the ground floor plan, and the plan to the right is the upper level. As you enter in the lobby, this was where I noted the public entrance on the site plan. Off to the left is the community training room. There's a series of spaces that serve that, as well as a large conference room that doubles as a supplement to the Emergency Operations Center. The one big change we made with that is we did reduce the overall size of it a little bit to save some cost, but we also added a room divider so that one large training room can be divided into two smaller training rooms so that the fire department could use one side and the public can use one side. Multiple fire department trainings can happen simultaneously, or the divider can be collapsed and one large meeting can occur in that room. We also took another look at the fitness room and reduced the size of that by about 300 square feet. Other than that, the rest of the plan has not changed. Plan right is most of your administrative functions with the chief's office and his staff. To the north, we've got our apparatus bay, support spaces, decontamination, turnout gear storage. We've got our 4 double deep apparatus bays that house all the equipment that this department is going to need to operate out of. Work rooms, SCBA rooms where they fill the air packs, and then we have a mechanics bay just off to the north. On the second floor, from the bay space, we just have a mezzanine. This can supplement as additional storage for the fire department, as well as additional training that the fire department can do in-house. We've got mechanical and electrical spaces, and then the rest of the plan to the south is their living quarters, bunk rooms, day room, kitchen, and some office space. And again, this is the area designated as future growth that I had alluded to earlier. So quite simply, an exterior walls and another roof can be added to this in the future, built off of that concrete slab, and allow for about 5,000 square feet of future growth should the fire department need it down the road. So we want to take a quick look at some updated renderings based on the community feedback that we received in January. The first option that we're going to look at is an update to the original design that was presented at that meeting. Some of the comments that we had received was it was a little bit too dark and things like that. So we simply lightened up some of the materials on this. The brick was a bit darker as initially rendered. So, and then we had a lot more of black metal down low and around some of the other spaces. So we reduced the amount of metal and increased the amount of brick that was going to be shown here. We lightened up the color of brick. And then when we were showing black corrugated metal around the apparatus bays, we lightened that up to a lighter gray. It was also important to the committee that we looked at how this was rendered at night. This is a 24/7, 365 building. The public will be coming here in emergency situations at all hours of the night, and the fire department is going to be using this building at all hours of the night and need to be able to respond to it. So it was important that the committee understood how this would look at night as well. So we did provide that rendering here, showing ample site lighting, and then some soffit lighting around the roof structure. But the committee, as well as ourselves, felt that this did not address enough of the community feedback that was received in January. So we wanted to go and create a second option, and presented that to the committee about a month ago, and are showing those updates today. And again, this is looking through the lens of some of the other precedent examples that we had presented, and updating the design based on some of those cues. So this is the view from Prospect Street. So we've gotten rid of the low sloped large roof that sort of slowly pitched up towards Route 20. We've changed that to a series of gable ends and cross gables. We've added some precast concrete window projections in a couple of areas to just help break up the mass of some of these taller elements. We added some pilasters that help break up some of the longer portions of the facade. and then sort of simplified some of the more complicated detailing that was on the initial option. Felt like this really starts to bring in a little bit more of that New England aesthetic, some more of the pitched roofs. We've got ample opportunities across the apparatus bays and on the south face of a lot of these for future solar installations. And then some of the areas around the apparatus bays where we were originally rendering that with dark colored perforated metal, we're rendering that here with some white or off-white metal, and then some precast banding and surrounds around the overhead doors. And again, this is a view of the officer's entry. Just around the corner, you can see the main public entry. We extended an entry canopy into that so that it defines that entry a little bit more and then gives you a little bit of cover as you're entering the building. So this is us turning the corner. So now our back is to Route 20. These are the office spaces down below. Some of the bunk rooms are up above here. And this is the main public entry into the building just off to the left. The other thing that you'll notice is we have a ground face block band at the base. A little bit more durable material than the brick, a little bit less expensive, but it helps ground the building and really set it down on the site. And then again, looking at how that would render at night as well. So much like the image of the Lexington Fire Headquarters, incorporating some recessed lighting into the gable end soffits, adding some site lighting around the building itself, and then really allowing that to look like that it's sort of open for business 24/7, 365, so that if you ever need to come to the building at any time of day, any time of year for an emergency situation, you know where it is, you know where to go. And then our last slide is just giving an update on the overall project cost. Joe, if you want to take that.
Thanks, Matt. I just wanted to bring to everyone's attention the cost of the project. Ultimately, that's the biggest concern for most taxpayers and what the impact would be to each taxpayer as we move forward. Construction costs, we're estimating it right now at $24,800,000. Project development costs were around $5.2 million. We're carrying, and we all know that the tariffs have hit, and you know we don't know the impact on it right now. But to ensure that we're showing our responsibility with this project, we're carrying a contingency of $1 million. Doesn't necessarily mean we're going to actually utilize that, but in the event that it does have an effect on any of the materials, and that can go from structural steel all the way to mechanical, electrical equipment, all has some type of impact due to the tariffs that may be imposed. The total project cost is $31 million, of which we've went through a number of different meetings with the Select Board and Finance Committee to allocate $8 million of free cash towards this project. What that means to the taxpayers in the town of Auburn is that your total funding to the public is only going to be $23 million. That significantly helps the overall tax burden on the town, and that's the whole reason why you work so diligently to become so responsible with your funds within the town. Gives you the ability to use it on capital projects. That's as a necessity as you move forward. The medium household tax impact is $186.93, basically $46.73 a quarter for a brand new facility that will be built for the next 50 plus years. The town of Auburn, this isn't a question whether they need it. It's essential for the operation and the services that will be provided from the fire department for the town of Auburn. I think overall, we've taxed the architect, and Matt's done a great job showing any of the efficiencies that we can gain within the program. We met with the department and looked at some of the reductions that we could do on the overall program, but not being short-sighted to the point where we're making cuts unnecessarily just to meet a particular budget and then move into a building that's already too small. They looked at every aspect of this building from the first floor apparatus to the second floor to ensure that we're being responsible and judicially moving forward with ensuring costs are at the lowest that we could possibly do to present to the town. With that, is there another slide after that? With that, we will be doing another presentation to the public, and our goal is to be as transparent and informative as we can. As the questions come in, you know, the department and the town is doing everything in their power to make sure that they get clear, concise, and consistent answers out to the public. The other aspect of it is that we'd like to have at least one more public forum, just to get the message out there that this building's coming, it's needed, and what the other aspects within the building are and what the cost impacts it might be as we move forward. And I appreciate everybody's time, and any questions are welcome, and send it to the building website, and you'll get those answers relatively quickly. Thank you.